Welcome, you viewers, to another exciting episode of Canadian Mosaic as part of Awaz Entertainment. I'm your host, Prashanth, and I'm super excited for this episode as we'll be speaking to a young individual who is so passionate about so many different things and truly exemplifies what it truly means to break trends and really follow your passion. Tonight, our episode will focus around on the art of filmmaking, mental wellness, and so much more. I have the privilege of introducing Geet Chahil, who is joining me in the studio, who is a student at Mohawk College and a freelance filmmaker. Geet is from Beamsville, Ontario. He was born in Brampton and went to high school in Beamsville District High School. He is currently in his final year at Mohawk College for broadcasting, television, and communication media. He is a real estate videographer and is passionate about cameras, film, photography, and recently has divulged into cars. Welcome, Geet. We are so excited to have you as part of the show.
Thanks for having me. That's a fantastic introduction.
Thank you, Geet. Thank you. So let's divulge into, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to enter the world of filmmaking and what your journey has been so far?
Yeah, getting into filmmaking was somewhat of a wild journey for me. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I always liked to make some skits here and there with my friends. So if there was ever a school project, whether there was a choice between an essay, a PowerPoint, or a video, I always ended up making the video, even though it was the tougher option. Yeah. And there was something just satisfying about, putting clips together and adding music over top and trying to convey a story through moving photos, essentially, what it is. Yeah. I didn't know that filmmaking could be a career till I was a lot older. And that's kind of the gist of how it all started.
Yeah, I think that's why we labeled the episode today is the beaming into the art of the film. So I feel that the whole filming is an art itself. Mm-hmm. So I want to go back a little bit about, because you are somebody with a Desi background. That's what right. was the reaction from like your friends and family when you said like, hey, you want to try something different, try something into filmmaking? What was the responses like from between friends and family and just your neighborhood? Because this is not something that's easy field to go into. What was the reaction like?
Yeah, so filmmaking, it's not a very traditional kind of career path that especially a Desi would go into. You often hear doctors or engineers being the very kind of common goal. But I think my parents and my friends were very, very supportive of the decision. I think at first it kind of came off as a little bit of a surprise, and it was a surprise for me as well. It was very much a kind of gut reaction to switch careers and hop into filmmaking. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of support.
Nice. No, I think support is key because in this world, any kind of career, I think you really need support. I think the closest people around you are the ones that kind of push you and kind of help you keep going further in the career as well. So filmmaking itself is a quite a laborious job that requires a lot of patience, endurance, and it's just difficult overall, right? So what keeps you going and what keeps you motivated while you try different projects and the things that you've done so far?
Yeah, so the thing with filmmaking is it's always the journey is exciting to me. It is a lot of work and video in general. It's just there's a lot that goes into a video. Mm-hmm. You're not just standing there with a camera hitting record. You got to think about your audio. You need to think about your lighting. But it's always that satisfaction of putting a package together and putting this video together and kind of showing it to the world, which is so enjoyable and satisfying for me. Right. So I'm always that's my goal, is to make something that people can enjoy, and right. It just keeps me going. Yeah.
Would you say what would you say the most favorite thing about filmmaking is? But is it seeing the audience reaction, or is it the whole making part of it? Which part really excites you the most?
I think it has to be when I'm in my editing bay, kind of putting this project together, and right at the very end, when I'm finally doing my touch-ups and I hit that export button, that feels fantastic. And then, of course, getting the reactions of my peers to whatever I've spent my time on for the past, couple of weeks, or how long that project is. it's a great feeling.
Right, right. So what would you say is the most toughest part of filmmaking is? Because we talked about something that's positive, but I'm sure there's lots of aspects of filmmaking is tough. What would you say is the most toughest for you?
I think the editing, again, it's kind of almost like a double-edged sword there. You know, I love the end part of editing when I hit that export, but before that, all the, you know, trying to find my clips and whatever compositing that I need to do and with post-production, it can get quite tedious for me. It could get quite tedious. And as far as the actual production goes, there's a lot of problem solving when it comes to filmmaking. You know, there could be, you know, let's say the weather's not right or someone can't show up. There's so many variables that you need to think of, and that's where a lot of planning comes into play.
For sure. So how would you describe the process of filmmaking to somebody that's like, you know, 5 years old that's watching the show? So if you had to describe like what you have to do to, you know, prepare yourself, go through the full journey of, you know, filming something, editing, releasing everything, what would you say to a 5-year-old?
Well, for a 5-year-old, I would say just don't stress too much about it. Pick up a camera, pick up a phone, and just start recording. But I think if we take it more seriously with filming, there's I would say if we split it up into sections, there's your pre-production, there's your production, then there's your post-production. So with your pre-production, that's where you do all your planning. You know, that's where you do your storyboarding. That's where you kind of come up with what exactly you want to do with this video, what kind of message or story you're trying to convey. Production is when you're actually producing and you're actually creating that media. So that's when, that for me is the most fun part. You know, that's where I pick up my cameras, I get those shots, I do my lighting. And then post-production is when you get all of that footage, you finally put it together. So I would say that's kind of the bare bones way of explaining it.
Amazing. No, that makes perfect sense because it sounds like it's a lot of different stages and you have to follow the process in order to get the good quality at the end.
Absolutely.
So what would you say, Geet, is one of the most proudest achievements you've done so far? Like maybe it's a release of one of your videos, so specific to film. What's something that you're so proud that, hey, like, you know, I worked on this something? So what's one of your accomplishments?
Yeah, I think probably one project I worked on last year was a 7-piece video series for my town, Beamsville, for Pioneer Day. Now, Pioneer Day traditionally is, at least for the younger crowd, it's hard to get the younger generation engaged with something like Pioneer Day. But due to COVID, that's when the town hired me to create this video series because we couldn't have an in-person festival. So what I did with this 7-piece video series is I went to 5 or 6 different vendors. There was beekeepers, welders, blacksmiths, and I made an individual video for each vendor. And then the final video was like a little montage, a little mix-up of all these videos. And these videos turned out great. The series was fantastic. The whole town enjoyed it a lot, gathered a lot of attention, and just turning something that's traditionally not so exciting into something that's fun to watch. I think that was very a proud moment for me.
Absolutely. No, it sounds like an exciting project as well as showcasing a little bit of your town as well. For the viewers that are wondering where, you know, Beamsville is, right? So can you talk a little bit about, you know, what is Beamsville known for? Like, I know it's in the Niagara area. For the viewers that are just seeing this for the first time, can you talk a little bit about what this town is known for? Maybe a little bit of a shout out to the folks that are watching from Beamsville as well.
Yeah, Beamsville, oh my God, where do I start with Beamsville? Beamsville's a fantastic little small town. It's close to the St. Catharines area. It's sandwiched right in between Grimsby and Vineland. And Beamsville's growing. Beamsville is, there's lots of farmland around Beamsville, mainly a lot of wineries, as Niagara's known for in general. Yeah, we've lived there for around 9 years, I believe. And it started off very, very small, and, you know, every time you go back there, there's like another building sprouting up. So Beamsville's just a small town. where everyone, it's very tight-knit community.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the small town feel myself too. Like it's like everybody knows each other. It's like hey, how's it going kind of thing. So it's
Absolutely.
wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about your other experiences, Geet. So someone told me that you used to be a truck mechanic repairing for transport trucks and trailers. What would that experience like? But that's very different to filmmaking and one of your other ventures.
That's right.
So what was that experience like? And would you say that you've learned a lot of things that you brought into the art of filmmaking?
Absolutely, yeah. So the experience with the truck mechanic thing, that was quite the wild journey for me, and something that now when I look back is kind of, it felt like a curveball. But when we go back to Beamsville and what Beamsville is all about, again, it's a rural kind of town, very small town. It seems like a lot of the guys we kind of go into the trades, and all the girls they become nurses, and we didn't have much of a media program in our high school, or it was a little bit lacking. So even though I loved video, I just, like I mentioned before, didn't know I could get a career in that area. So my dad, he's a truck driver, so I was always kind of good with tinkering with things or taking things apart, putting them back together. So I was very, very engaged in my high school's auto mechanic program. So I took auto all throughout high school, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved it a lot, and that's when I decided that, hey, maybe I should go into the trucking industry because my father is familiar with it. But doing auto class in high school is very, very different compared to the real world. So becoming a truck mechanic, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. And there's a lot of good days, but there's also a lot of bad days. But the experience of working with a group of guys, and trying to tackle one problem together was a very, very valuable experience for me. And I think kind of that teamwork aspect really carried over to filmmaking. Right. When you're working with a crew on one specific video, that kind of crew mentality kind of carries over. So I think that was a huge part of it.
Absolutely. Like I think a lot of the interpersonal skills, people skills, and the hands-on skills really applies, because you do need that the minute attention to details when you do this editing and just putting things together. So I can definitely see that as well. And I guess we'll go into a break real soon. But one of the things that I found really interesting was what you started a couple of years ago called Niagara Strong. So we'll delve into a little bit more of that later. But what is Niagara Strong at the moment? So I know it's a little bit focused on youth empowerment. So what is Niagara Strong, if you have to give it like less than 1 minute or so?
Yeah, I think, I would say Niagara Strong is a nonprofit mental health organization geared towards the youth. And our main goal is to spread mental health awareness and to just break the stigma around mental health.
Amazing, amazing. So folks, we will be right back after a short commercial break, where we'll get more deeper into the importance of mental health in the society. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
पूरे ओंटारियो में लाखों लोग अपनी कोविड-19 की वैक्सीन हासिल कर चुके हैं। हेल्थ कनाडा की मंजूरशुदा तमाम वैक्सीन्स महफूज और अस्पतालों, डॉक्टर्स के दफातर, फार्मेसीज और अवामी वैक्सीनेशन के मुकामात पर हासिल हैं। अपना किरदार अदा करें, अपनी वैक्सीन हासिल करें। 300 जुबानों में मदद के लिए ontario.ca/book vaccine पर जाएं या 1888-999-6488 पर कॉल करें।
का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सेला। होम डिलीवरी इज अवेलेबल सब्जेक्ट टू मिनिमम ऑर्डर एंड रेडियस। ऑल्सो अवेलेबल एट योर नेबरहुड फ्रेश को। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कॉन्टैक्ट करें 514-6630-480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से। बनाए ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ, द प्रीमियम चॉइस फॉर प्रीमियम टेस्ट। 2020 का लाजवाब ऑफर, जहां हम 0% फाइनेंसिंग पर आपकी मनपसंद कार दे रहे हैं, फ्री विंटर टायर्स, और साथ ही हम मुफ्त ऑयल चेंज भी दे रहे हैं, वो भी उम्र भर के लिए। अभी आएं और इस लाजवाब ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। जल्दी करें, आपका खुशामदीद हमारे आउटलेट में, जो कि 60 क्वींस प्लेट ड्राइव, at intersection close to Highway 27 and Rexdale opposite to Woodbine Racetrack. जल्द से जल्द इस ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। आज ही कॉल करें सुनील अग्रवाल को 647-703-0218।
KK Travel believe in providing everyone the first-class customer service. We take care not only for your air ticket, but dignity and respect as well. We are available for you anytime on WhatsApp, even while you are in Pakistan or any other destination. KK Travels guarantee lowest prices and are open to price match any airline.
We are KK Travels under supervision of Gas Khan at 905-367-9433 or visit www.gaskhontravels.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Canadian Mosaic, and our discussion today is with Geet Chahil and his journey from action replay and art of film. One of the many things that Geet is involved in is Niagara Strong, which is the youth empowerment initiative that he started a few years ago. So Geet, before the break, we talked a little bit about Niagara Strong, the importance of mental wellness. So can you tell us a little bit about the journey that, that you've taken to bring this into the world and the events that's leading up to it and the success so far for Niagara Strong?
Yeah, for sure. So the journey about Niagara Strong, it kind of, it definitely came out of nowhere. I had no idea that, you know, even a year after graduation, that something like this would kind of come to life. So when I was a mechanic, this was around the end of 2018. There was a time where during every lunch break, we'd hear about a suicide from the Burgoyne Bridge in the Niagara region. And we'd hear about these basically every other day, you know, and something like that, it was very, very tough for me to think about, you know, because these were the folks that were, you know, taking their own lives were about my age, you know, and thinking about kind of putting myself in their shoes and to think that they had no other option but to do something like that. It was hard to think about. So that's when I decided that I needed to make a stand and bring something like mental health to light, because I thought at the time that it just wasn't being talked about enough. So I believe that I was very kind of connected with the town of Beamsville, with a lot of the parents, just through my involvements with the high school. I definitely had a lot of people in my connections. So that's when I used my filmmaking to create a video basically discussing the idea of Niagara Strong. And what I did was I made one shirt and it said Niagara Strong on it. And I made a video saying, hey guys, I would like to sell shirts that said Niagara Strong on it. And all the revenue generated from the sales of these shirts, we're going to donate the money to mental health organizations like Pat Stone's. And the video blew up. It went viral. And we had lots of parents messaging me, asking about where they can buy the shirts, where they can buy the hoodies. And at the time, I was only about 18, you know, working a full-time job as a mechanic. So that's when I just got to work, went straight to work, and I built the website on my own. And I just ordered a bunch of shirts and hoodies. And yeah, we had so many orders from the first day the website came out. I think we made around $4,000, or we raised $4,000 the first day. So that's when I went to town and I started, I bought a heat press. I definitely learned a lot of skills during that time. Bought a heat press, bought vinyl cutting machines and stuff like that. And I just pressed shirts and hoodies for 2 months straight.
It was just you that was doing this whole thing at the very beginning?
So it was just me for the first week or so, but then that's when I decided I really needed help. So that's when I kind of called on to the parents in Beamsville and I asked if there's anyone out there that was that wanted to help. You know, let's have a meeting at Tim Hortons. So we had a meeting at Tim Hortons. We had a lot of parents show up that day, and that was the Niagara Strong team. And those guys, you know, those guys helped me out so much.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, when it comes to Beamsville and that small town feel, that's where it comes to play, is community involvement. You know, and at a young age, I learned how important community was, right? And how much, you know, if a family needs help in Beamsville, you know, you bet that a bunch of families will be there to support them.
Absolutely. No, I think the smaller communities have a different vibe than the bigger cities, of course, and it's great to hear that we are seeing some stories that's been brought to us by Beamsville, Ontario. And so, Geet, if you don't mind me asking, so I have seen your video online. There's a lot of things that you discuss with respect to, you know, high school and things that have happened. Do you care to explain some of the things that you've gone through in high school that has kind of made you a little bit more passionate in this field, and why you care so much about this? Because I think oftentimes, you know, this is something that's overlooked in my opinion, because right now, you know, we are in back to school mode. The schools are open, kids are going to school, universities are open. So this is such an important thing. And I think the viewers should definitely hear issue and things that people kind of go through every day, which is not really discussed all the time. Do you care to explain about the experience that you've had in high school?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, mental health can be a very, very taboo subject. You know, it's hard for people to talk about, and I think that is a part of the problem. You know, people don't want to talk about mental health, and they kind of put this face on, you know, and just suppressing those emotions deeper and deeper inside, it just causes more damage. So when it comes to my experience through high school, it was a very, very confusing one. You know, I didn't know much about mental health. I didn't know what any of it was. I didn't know what depression or anxiety was, because it just wasn't talked about, you know? And so I was going through quite a bit of anxiety and depression through high school, but I felt that I couldn't express myself because I didn't want to lose any friends, or I didn't want people to think I wasn't man enough. You know, I think there's a little bit extra stigma that could go to, you know, the male crowd when it comes to, you know, they expect you to man up, but you should be speaking up instead, you know? So yeah, it was very, very tough for me through high school, and it was just something that I never ever talked about. And then as the years went on, you know, grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, I just started to wonder what other faces that I was seeing in these hallways, what they were going through.
Absolutely.
Because if I was able to hide my emotions and hide what I was feeling, you know, the people that I see every day, like, you know, they could be smiling right now, but walk around the corner and they could be a totally different person, right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I got very, very passionate about mental health. And, you know, I think my later years in grade 12, that's when I started to seek for help. You know, I went to a social worker in my high school. That's when I kind of noticed where there were some areas we were lacking. You know, for example, the social worker would only come once a week, you know, on a Thursday. And I just don't think that's enough. You know, and I think there needs to be more resources out there, and I think you know, our youth need to it needs to be more available for them. So I just thought that I need to bring a change to this.
Absolutely. Like, I think this is something that everybody goes through in high school. It's just not very common, and people don't talk about it, like you said. And it's great that, you know, you've taken a foot forward and said, hey, I want to do something for my town. And, you know, if you are watching this and if you are going through something similar, there are resources out there for you. There are resources like, you know, friends and family and support system. Reach out. Reach out, because, you know, you'll be surprised that there's a lot more people like you, and there are people that are willing to help you and support you in any way, form. So thanks for doing that for Beamsville, and we're glad to see that, you know, you went through something difficult at a period, and now you are killing it, I would call it, in the media space, and trying to come up as a film producer and filmmaker. Sorry. So it's great to see. So one thing that you talked about, Geet, is how important do you feel mental wellness is in our society? So one of the things you said, you know, there's not much resources. Do you feel that we are doing enough, or could we do more? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think over even the past few years, I would say that we've been doing very well. You know, I think that mental health has come up in conversation a lot more often. I think in general people are more open to talk about mental health. You know, it's okay to feel anxious. You know, it's okay to have down days. You know, not every day has to be like picture perfect, right? And I think, again, with the use of social media as well, you know, every day social media is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, I just think it's definitely getting talked about more. And I think that's a great thing. You know, when I compare to how things were like even like 4 years ago, I think we've come a long way.
No, definitely. It's because like with the point that you said earlier, right? Like you walk around in your town or the mall or something, right? That like you never know what's actually going on in people's minds. I think one thing you touched on about is, you know, not every day is great. Like you're gonna have your highs, you're gonna have your lows, but for some people it's consistent number of lows which you don't know how to get out of, and some people it's consistently highs. But the thing is, I think what I feel is social media does is it's not the real accurate representation of what people truly are.
Absolutely.
Because social media is what they want people to see as.
Yep.
But if you go deeper, like I think, you know, if somebody that met you back that time, I'm pretty sure that you hit it really well that nobody knew that this was going on your mind. Am I right? Or?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the thing about social media is that's everyone's highlight reel. You know, nobody's gonna post about you know, times where they're struggling. You know, like let's say they lost their job. You know, they're not going to, you know, that's not the first thing that you're going to see as soon as you open that app. You know, the daily struggles that someone goes through. What you're going to see is vacations, and that's perfectly fine. But that sort of thing, it can play an effect on others' mental health when they're like, "Geez, I'm, you know, over here not doing much with my life, and you know, this other person is, you know, way above me." Stuff like that. So I think it definitely plays a role.
I think one of the biggest things that I tell people is, you know, don't ever compare yourself to other people.
Absolutely.
I think you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know, who I was yesterday.
Absolutely.
That should be your motivation, not like an actor, your best friend, or the popular kid in school, or the gym buff, or anyone like that, right? So I think that's really, really important, and thanks for sharing that as well, because it's so important. Because you know, even in the work industry, in film or anything like that, I'm sure you're working with people like that, and you probably have no idea what's going on. Like this is something, you know, people come to a phase, like, you know, when you're in front of a camera, that's the whole theme of the show is, you know, action replay. This is literally what people want you to see. Because this is not the true representation of what you are on the inside, right? So it's really important. So, Geet, like, so we talked a little bit about educational institutions, right? So, how do you feel that, you know, universities and colleges and just the tertiary education are dealing with this? Because I know there's a lot of support systems out there. So, give you an example. A lot of students that are, let's say, you know, international students that are coming into the country are having some challenges, and you know, girls and boys that are just going through relationships, ups and downs, all these kind of things. Do you feel that, like, let's say for example Mohawk College, are there enough resources in the college? Can people reach out easily in confidence that, like, hey, they will get the help that they need without having to be afraid of the fact that, hey, it's okay to go through a therapist or a counseling or anything like that? What's your thoughts on the tertiary education compared to high school?
Yeah, I think the resources available in colleges and university, it's a lot better. You know, it's I don't think there should be any fear regarding judgment, you know, of trying to get those resources, because I think a lot of these institutions, they offer one-on-one sessions, you know, stuff like that, where and confidential. Everything's completely confidential. You know, people don't need to know that you're out receiving help if you don't want them to know. And I think that if you need the help, then you should definitely go and seek for that help, because again, just trying to bottle that up is not a good path, and it can be very, very destructive.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest thing when you go to therapy or counseling or something is to tell you to talk about these things. Because when you bottle up, you tend to explode, or that gets crazy things on your mind.
Absolutely.
Because that is the worst thing that you can do is, you know, bottle everything up internally, because you have to find ways to do it. And if you're watching the show and you are having these concerns, talk to the people around you, talk to your professors, talk to your friends, because there are enough resources out there. Like if you literally go online and search for, you know, support systems for mental wellness, I'm sure there's free hotlines and things like that that's available for someone to listen to you and kind of just help you out. Because, you know, you are not alone in this world. Like I think there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. So Geet, so I think we get a little bit heavy on this conversation. So let's lighten the load a little bit right now. So who has been your biggest support in life, and why?
Yeah, I would say I think the first person that comes to mind is my father. You know, I think my father has been my number one fan over the years, and he's always been someone I've kind of tried to base myself off of. You know, I always I always look up to my dad, you know, and he's the one who kind of supported me and said, kind of got me into the trucking thing. And when I wanted to leave, there was no judgment, there was no tough feelings. He just said, go and do what you know is best. And now whenever I call my father and we talk about where I'm at with filmmaking, he's very, very proud.
Amazing, amazing. That's such a great story because I think your family is one of the strongest support systems out there. So Geet, so this has been one amazing interview so far. Like I'm learning so much about your story, sharing a lot of content about this as well. So when it comes to, you know, movies and things like that, so what would you say your favorite movie is of all time?
My favorite movie of all time? Jeez, that's a loaded one.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just really like the Marvel movies.
Okay.
You know, I think, well, now they're kind of getting tough for me to enjoy properly because now I look at the technical aspect of things. So like camera angles, lighting, whatever it is. But usually when I watch movies, I try to just get the enjoyment out of it. And I'm just a huge superhero fan. Like all the Spider-Man movies, you know, that's my jam.
Oh, that makes two of us. I love the Marvel series as well too. But I think, like, you know, if you look at the film industry itself, it's drastically changed over time. In the last, let's say, beginning the first Avengers movie until now, the quality of like things that have happened with the technical aspects of it, the special effects, I was like, whoa. Like, how do you even film these things? This is ridiculous in terms of how much it's advanced over time. So would you say, like, you know, would you, what if, let's say, you know, Kevin Spacey or one of those Marvel directors actually say, hey, would you actually come and work on this show? Would you be interested in taking up an opportunity like that?
Oh, let's do it. I'm ready. Yeah, those are definitely some massive productions. And I think those might be something I would want to kind of work on the sidelines for. I'm not sure if I would want to sink my teeth directly into something like that. But yeah, movies have come a long way. You know, even if we think about like 10 years from now, I think a lot of the stuff now, it's a lot of VFX, you know. You see actors running around in these little suits with a bunch of dots running around green screens and blue screens, and a lot of things are added after the fact. So, yeah, I think it's a goal for later down the line.
Who would you say is your favorite Marvel character so far?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man? Yeah, Spider-Man? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing.
Hands down.
Which kind of Spider-Man? There's the Amazing Spider-Man, there's the kid Spider-Man, any specific one?
Tobey Maguire.
The classic.
The classic,
okay.
Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. So I was recently just watching the trilogy with my girlfriend, just trying to get her up to speed to what's going on in the universe while we wait for the new one.
Amazing, amazing. Yes. So we'll be right back after a short commercial break, folks. As Deeks takes the hot seat, I'll be asking him some rapid fire and play a little game as well too. So let's see how the director behind the cameras comes out on fire. So we'll be right back, folks.
पूरे ओंटारियो में लाखों लोगों ने अपना कोविड-19 टीका लगवाया है। स्वास्थ्य कनाडा द्वारा अनुमोदित सभी टीके सुरक्षित हैं और अस्पतालों, डॉक्टरों के कार्यालयों, फार्मेसियों और सामूहिक टीकाकरण स्थलों में उपलब्ध हैं। अपनी भूमिका निभाएं, अपना टीका लगवाएं। वेबसाइट ontario.ca/book vaccine पर जाएं या 300 भाषाओं में सहायता के लिए 1-888-999-6488 पर कॉल करें।
पाकिस्तान का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सिल्वर। होम डिलीवरी इज अवेलेबल subject to minimum order and radius. Also available at your neighborhood fresh co. मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कांटेक्ट करें 5146630480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से। बनाएं ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ the premium choice for premium taste.
Canada's Conservatives will secure the future for Milton. From Milton's small business and entrepreneurial sector to manufacturing, our plan will get Milton's economy back on track. We will restore accountability and trust in government, address the mental health epidemic, ensure we're ready for the next health crisis, and get Canada's fiscal house in order. I'm thrilled to work with your Conservative candidate, Nadeem Akbar. Nadeem has 17 years of experience as an IT professional. He's passionate about giving back to the community. Now he's ready to be your next Member of Parliament. Nadeem is ready to serve the people of Milton.
Hello Milton, my name is Nadeem Akbar. I'm your Conservative candidate. To connect with me, check out my website nadeemakbar.ca.
देखिए खेल की आवाज हर पीर शाम 7 बजे। आज की बात समीना जबीन के साथ हर मंगल रात 8 बजे। इस्लाम इन मॉडर्न टाइम हर मंगल और जुमा शाम 6 बजे। कनेडियन मोज़ेक हर बुध रात 8 बजे। रियलिटी कॉफी टॉक हर जुमेरात शाम 7 बजे। टुनाइट टॉक हर जुमा शाम 7 बजे। देखिए तकरार, कीजिए तकरार समीना जबीन के साथ हर रोज रात 9 बजे और रिपीट सुबह 9 बजे। आप देख रहे हैं आवाज एंटरटेनमेंट, आवाज आपकी, चैनल हमारा, जुड़िए हमसे।
Welcome back, viewers, back to Canadian Mosaic, and we are here with Geet, Chahil, who is a young filmmaker from Beamsville, Ontario. And throughout this last 30 minutes, we talked about his journey, about how he became from a truck mechanic into going into a mental wellness venture, and now he's focused on film. So, Geet, so let's make this a little bit more fun and interesting. So
Okay.
I call this action replay.
Yeah.
That's why the name of this is. So let's want to see what your instant reactions for these things. You can either act it out, or you can kind of say what comes to your mind. So whatever it is, you can use your hands, you can do your gestures, whatever it is. So you can do whatever. I mean, we'll go really easy for the time being.
Yeah,
so
sounds
it's what do you like the most? Coffee, tea, or water?
Coffee.
You're a coffee person, so
Yeah.
you need coffee in the morning?
I need my coffee. Yeah.
Okay. What about your favorite cake flavor? Vanilla, strawberry, or chocolate?
Chocolate.
You didn't have to think about that, did you?
No, these are too easy.
I was trying to be easy.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing.
Okay. What was your, let's say, favorite subject in school? Mathematics, science, or physical education?
Physical education.
You don't think about this. You're just like, boom, you know exactly what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. So Geet, do you have any interest in languages by any chance? Because you are going into the film industry. So are you interested in different languages, trying to venture out into other areas like French, German, Bollywood, or anything like that? Is that something that's on your interest, or?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually had my first trip to Montreal a few months ago. I think maybe last month, now that I think of it. And geez, that French language, I never paid attention in French class, and it was, coming back for me when I was in Montreal. And I don't know, it was very, very inspiring just to see just a huge group of people speaking a different language, and I just had the sudden urge to just learn a new language. I wanted to learn French, I think learning a new language is definitely on the bucket list. I think Spanish might be a good one to get into.
Okay.
But yeah.
Do we, so Geet, I think, do we see, because I know you're into filmmaking.
Yeah.
But what about acting itself? Are you a bit of an actor yourselves? I'm not sure if, have you experimented on that? Have you been on acting side of your own movies and clips that you've created so far?
Yeah, so acting's definitely interesting. I've definitely been in my own videos for the content I've made for Niagara Strong. So for example, some of the narrative pieces that I've made for Niagara Strong, where I kind of talk about the history and the journey of Niagara Strong. I was in front of the camera, acting. And I think, I will probably be doing more in the future, because it's just easy, it's very accessible, just put the camera on a tripod, and whatever ideas you have, just do them yourself. So they're definitely quick and dirty, but I'm not sure if I would pursue acting as a career.
I see. But you're more of the camera guy.
For
you
sure.
want to be behind the camera and doing the
yeah.
end-to-end. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about famous directors, right? So Steven Spielberg. You know who Steven Spielberg is?
No.
Okay, how about this? Let's go move on to a different question. So, who would you say in your community that is most inspiring with respect to film? Anybody else in your area that's kind of
In my local area. I think see when we talk about film, I think of it more as a general kind of not just movies, but just like video content in general. I think it would have to be my professors. I don't think it could be one person. I think it would be all my professors.
That's a really good answer. So professors from Mohawk College, is that what you're, okay, professors at Mohawk College. So I guess you're the inspiration for young people like Geet who are trying to venture into the media space. So Geet, what's one of the first movies that you've ever seen? Do you recall?
First movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's probably something Bollywood.
Do you remember what it is by any chance?
Oh my goodness, no. But if I think about the first movies that I've seen, probably the first Spider-Man, if I'm being honest.
Spider-Man came out in 2001.
Yeah, 2001, 2002. Yeah.
Okay,
so I probably, as soon as I opened my eyes, that was probably the first thing I've seen.
Wow, that is how young Geet is, folks. Like when he opened his eyes, Spider-Man came.
That was the first thing. That's right.
Guys, that actually shows how young Geet is and like how much he's done over the last little while. So it's really impressive of what you've done so far, Geet. Have you seen the movie Avatar by any chance?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Let me give you one of the toughest questions that I had. If you have to recreate Avatar using your techniques and your abilities, what would you do differently? Oh
my goodness. I don't know if I could do anything differently with Avatar. I think Avatar was so ahead of its time. I don't think, I think that's something I would leave alone, and but boy, I think there's a second one coming out.
I think so.
Yes. So that's definitely going to be kept on my radar. But no, I think I would just keep that as a classic.
Yeah. And I think I don't remember how long the Avatar movie took, but I think it took a good 15, 20 years to complete or something like that. It was a long years in coming. James Cameron is known for one of the biggest movies out there, right? So is there any movies that you think that could be remade for today's generation? So for example, let's say one of my favorites is Titanic.
Yeah.
Right? Have you seen the Titanic?
I have.
Okay, good. That is one of the classics, right? So, and even today, if you watch that, there's so much depth into storytelling, the emotions and passions and things like that. It's one of the movies that I've seen. I don't even know. I think I've seen the movie 100 times. That's how much it's been out there. Would you take that storytelling and change it anyway for today's generation? Because the reason I asked that question is we're used to seeing Marvel, VFX, explosions and things like that. So I don't know if that type of storytelling still works for today's generation of people out there.
Yeah.
So what's your perspective? Because I'm going to classify yourself as Gen Z.
Yeah.
So what is your take on this? Would people still watch movies like Titanic, or would you remake it into something a little bit different?
Oh man, I really like that question. I really like that one because, it's really hard to think about because, I feel like in our generation in general, we're very, everything needs to be kind of fast-paced. I feel like the attention spans are a lot shorter, and if a movie doesn't have 50 explosions, then I feel like it's, I think there's still a crowd for them. I still think there is a group of people that enjoy movies like that. I think it would still be fine, but I think the amount of VFX and CGI that we see these days, it's tough. It's very tough to compete.
One of the things you talked about, Geet, is the whole attention span of people, right? Right now, we're seeing videos and things being shorter and shorter. So we are now to 1.5 hour movies, 1 hour. Who knows what's going to happen? So when you look at social media, the whole 1 minute, 2 minutes are now being shortened into reels and TikToks and things like that too. So I think there's a bit of a challenge for filmmakers to keep the audience more entertained and keep the audience engaged until the end of the movie, right? This episode is about 45 minutes long, 45 minutes to an hour long. How many people actually went through the full episode? It's interesting to see because I think there's a bit of a challenge. And as a film producer yourself, have you noticed anything in your learnings or just your experiences so far? How has things changed between, let's say, pre-COVID and post-COVID? Because pre-COVID was very different. There's not a lot of films being produced, and maybe things are a bit slow for the media side. So how would you say like your time has been pre-COVID as well as post-COVID times?
Yeah, I mean, creating content for quite a few years now, and I say quite a few years as in just like a couple of years. I'm still a beginner and stuff like this, but I think making content as short and kind of meaty as possible is always a big goal and a big focus, because again, like you mentioned, those attention spans, right? If you have a 12-minute video that's full of fluff and then the meat and potatoes is just kind of sprinkled here and there, it's kind of hard to keep the audience engaged. So that's where the content I make these days, it's cut out all the fluff and make it as impactful as possible, because these days all it takes is a quick swipe and the audience is on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think like if you don't take 10 seconds or so, if you don't get people's attention, you lost them. They're gone.
Yep.
Yeah, like I've seen your videos and stuff, and like it's very engaging. So I think if you had to give advice to your younger self, or people that say, hey, like I want to get into this, like I want to try this, what would you say to the younger version of yourself, or just people that are just watching right now that are just enthusiastic, like, hey, this sounds awesome, like I want to give it a try?
Yeah. So definitely get out of your comfort zone. Just get out of your comfort zone, take whatever opportunities you can get, and anything comes your way, just say yes, put your head down and get to work. Something like this, it might sound super glamorous, but it took a lot of work and a lot of hours and, a lot of networking and, doing tons of work for free. And I'm not there yet. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I'm still very much at the beginning stages of my career. But it's just a lot of networking. But I think that if you have the passion for it and you have the drive for it, I think you can make it work.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I stress on this show is, really following your passion. Because I think, like, you are a fine example of a Canadian who's really breaking trends and kind of like, following your passion. But I think the message that I think you're kind of saying is, get out of your comfort zone, get networking, and just get yourself out there kind of thing.
Just get started.
Get started, yeah. So how do you network in this field? Because this is a very difficult field. So how do you go about doing this? Like, are you doing a lot of, events and things like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. The thing with networking, especially with the freelance filmmaking route, it's actually just a lot of free work. It's a lot of free work, and it's a lot of portfolio building. No one is going to hire you and pay you $1,000 to make them a commercial if you haven't done anything like that before, right? Yeah. Whereas if you go to a business owner and say, hey, I'd like to make you a promotional video for free, it benefits them and it benefits you, because you've just networked with someone, you've made a connection, and you have something for your portfolio. Right. So the way to go about it is just reach out to different business owners, check out the live events that are going on in your area, and just do them for free. And eventually that free content will start turning into paid work, and then you go from there.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant, because if you think about Instagram and social media itself, that's where everybody starts off, right? Like you post a few content for free, and then you try to make something, and people notice you. And don't underestimate the power of social media, right? Like, the hashtags and just the whole, use it to your advantage. So Geet, like, if you are into filmmaking, what is one social media that you have to be part of? Like, I understand there is there's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all these kind of things. As a young filmmaker, what do you think that you must have and you need to have a polished profile on?
Good question. Is all of them an option? I think having a presence on all the social medias is definitely very important, because even if it gives you a little bit of a chance for a client to find you, right, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to put the time and effort into. Yeah. I use YouTube as a portfolio piece, so I usually post all my content on YouTube. Instagram's a great place to connect, and I think Facebook has probably been my best tool. Wow,
that was a lot. Like, you are right, it is all of them that you need to focus on as well. So thank you, Geet. We are coming to the end of the show. So Thank you for telling us your story. I found it was truly motivational, and seeing all the great that what you're doing is quite inspirational as well. Motivational, inspirational, and we're looking forward to seeing what you're getting up to in the future. On behalf of the viewers and Awaz Entertainment, we want to wish you all everything but success in this journey. And this is your host, folks. This is Prashanth from Canada Mosaic, and as part of Awaz Entertainment. If you enjoy the show, please follow and subscribe to our channel on Facebook and YouTube. Never hesitate to reach out for help and always pursue your passions like the way that Geet is doing. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week, same time. Signing off for the time being.